Our culture at Morgan State University. And so we have a keynote speaker, as I said, Imhotep Asis Fatiu. He's going to be speaking on scientific Pan-Africanism. Many of you may not know what that is, but when he's done speaking, I guarantee you, you will.
Before I get into the topic that I want to speak about tonight, I want to briefly speak on the libation. I noticed that a lot of us were a little uncomfortable when we was doing libation. That's primarily the reason why this event is organized. Because we are African people no matter where we was born at in the world. That's the first thing we need to understand. We have allowed somebody else to define our reality, so as such we believe that we are different people. We believe I'm a Haitian, I'm a Trinidadian, I'm a Jamaican, you're a Ghanaian, you're an African American. We use these labels and these categories that have been defined for us to keep us divided, and that division keeps us from unifying. And due to the fact that we can't unify, confusion remains within our communities. So we organized this event to bring about some clarity. And the first piece of clarity we need to understand is that we are African, and as such, we should identify with anything that's African. That's right. The best of our culture, we should identify with it, and we should embrace it. When the brother was pouring libation, he called on Oludumare. Oludumare is a West African deity, a West African god. I know a lot of times we hear them say, well, they got many gods, they got this, they have that. What we need to understand is that every people in the world geographically defines their own reality. That's right. No one has a monopoly on defining reality. Unfortunately, Europeans have took it upon themselves to begin to define the world. And then they impose these definitions on everyone else. It's time for African people to stand up and redefine for themselves. That's what this event is about. Scientific Pan-Africanism. Scientific Pan-Africanism is Pan-Africanism elevated and raised to a higher level. It is the process by which Pan-Africanism is systematized. What do I mean by systematized? I mean that we are in an era of time where we must begin to develop and organize systems. These systems must be organized in such a way that it moves us forward as a people. It elevates our existence in this world. That's what I mean when I say scientific Pan-Africanism is Pan-Africanism raised and elevated. It's not a detraction nor is a deviation from Pan-Africanism. We're saying that we're going to systematize it. We're going to give it its necessary components so it can become a total whole, a total system of liberation. That's what it's about. That's the earth time we're living in. Scientific Pan-Africanism, it advances the following position. Understand what I'm about to say. African people everywhere belong to a worldwide African community. Everywhere you belong to an African community. And as such, you have a common oppressor. As such, you have common conditions. As such, you have common symptoms. As such, you have a common plight. And on the basis of those four things, we should be unified. On the basis of those four, we should be unified. If your education that you are receiving does not prepare you to go back into your community and save the community, then it's not education that you're receiving. Education must always reflect the social environment you find yourself in. And it must prepare you to deal with the conditions in that environment, not to run away from it, not to say I want to go to school to get a BA, to get a master's, to get a PhD so I can move away from the hood. That's not education. That's not education. We got it wrong. You go to school to get the education so you can go back and fix, so you can go back and heal. You go and you get your master's in business administration so you can develop businesses. Not to go knock on Microsoft doors and say, will you hire me? Not to go to IBM and say, will you hire me? That's not what it's about. So whatever field you're going into, your responsibility and task is to add on to it. Because some black person have done something great in that field already. You may not know it. You in psychology. You got massive black psychologists, African psychologists that are doing wonderful things. Dr. Naeem Akbar, Wade Nobles, Amos Wilson, Dr. Francis Cross Wilson that are doing wonderful work.
That's right.
So if you're in psychology, it's your duty and responsibility to understand it and add on to it.
That's right.
Pan-Africanism.
Not to sit down and force Freud, Skinner, Pablo, and his dog, and force this stuff in your head, and you try to take those theories and then apply it to your people. They don't work because they never studied your people. They studied Europeans and came up with systems to help Europeans. So how are you going to take that and apply it to your situation and think you will help African people? And then when it don't work, you start blaming the people. You start saying they don't want anything, well, she don't want anything. They lazy, they this. Because your education haven't prepared you to deal with your own people.
That's true, brother. That's true.
Amen. I'll shake.
Sociology. W.B. Du Bois is the first sociologist in this country. He is the first. He is the father of it. Is it taught that way in these schools throughout this land? No, it's not. They'll send you somewhere else. He is the first. Go read in Philadelphia Negro. They're still trying to create statistical data as accurate as that. And this is what we need to do, understand, and you build on Du Bois. You build on what he was doing. What did he understand? And you build on that. You add to it. That's reclaiming your culture.
That's right.
That's reclaiming it. A person experienced some type of traumatic experience in his or her life. You know, the first thing the therapists try to do is get you to do a talk about it, some kind of way. They want you to talk about it because they believe through that talking, we can begin a dialogue. Through that dialogue, some type of healing can take place. Now, collectively, African people being raped, plundered, robbed, slaughtered, terrorized for over 300 years. No one want to talk about that situation. So that trauma is passed on.
Right.
The trauma became a learned behavior. It became a learned behavior a long time ago. We learned how to function in a traumatic state. But just because we learned how to function in a traumatic state doesn't mean that we had really developed as a people. It doesn't mean that we was emotionally and psychologically developed because we learned to function. So we are human beings, and as such, we're always going to move towards survival. We're going to adapt. That's what we do best as human beings. We adapt. So we adapted to that type of environment, which was traumatic, and we learned to function as such. And as a result of functioning in the traumatic state, this is what we begin to transmit from generation to generation. Nothing but trauma. This is what we passed on. That's why we get down to 2011, we don't even like each other. We don't want to communicate. We don't even want to say good things about each other. We don't want to do any of that. We walk around hostile, we angry, we mad, we turn our face up at everything. Everything sets us off because you're traumatized and don't realize it.
That's right.
You're traumatized and don't realize it. Anytime something always bothers you that's externally from you, that's an indication that something's wrong with you. That indicates that something's wrong with you if something externally always bothers you, sets you off. You have a problem. Psychologically, you just don't realize it because you have learned to function in a traumatic state. That's our situation. Pan-Africanism, the unification of African people throughout the world. PAN, it means all inclusive, all embracive. Ism, the practice of. We want to practice African spirituality, African customs, African traditions, African culture. That's what that's about. Africa must be our center. That's your platform. That's your core. That's your root. That's what you stand on. That's what gave you birth. Africa is your mother. They try to cut the umbilical cord, your culture. It's your responsibility to reconnect, to go back, Sanko for yourself. Touch in, build, redevelop, visualize, stand on someone's shoulders, push us forward. Don't just come to school to waste your time. Don't give these people all this money to be educated. You're not being educated. Take responsibility for that education. Put them phones down and stop texting all day long about nothing. Whatever field you're in, I challenge every college student in here. Whatever your fields are, you go find 10 black people that already did it. They did it well in your field. We should know it, because you go to any European, they're going to tell you about all what the Europeans did. You go to any Chinese, they're going to tell you about it. They're going to talk about the Han Dynasty, the Shang Dynasty. They're talking about all that stuff. They know it. It's a part of their education. They don't go to school that don't teach them about that. They don't go to school and don't teach them about Mao Zedong. They don't go there and don't teach them that. They know about the Cultural Revolution that took place. They know about back when the Europeans ran opium through China and strung them all out on drugs. They know about that. They know who done it. You go anywhere in the world, you can't even go over there in Australia, and them people's gonna tell you about Tasmania, how the Europeans wiped them out. They know about their history. Your history has to be fused into your educational process, because within your history is where you find your identity. Your identity is not your birth name. Your identity grows out of your history. It's the culture that shapes you. Culture is the great sculptor. It shapes and fashions and forms character. But you can't have a character if you're devoid of your culture. And on that note, I would like to say, I appreciate every one of you. You're beautiful. I like the fact that all of you gave me undivided attention. You sat through this lecture, you listened to me. That's beautiful. I want to thank the 3 groups again for bringing me out. It was a beautiful opportunity, I enjoyed. Let's get into the 3 groups. And with that, I'm going to say, Hotep.
Hotep.
It could hurt you. Nah, it's way too late for that. Fictional Willie Lynch lessons. Oh dear. Coochie chocolate.